We need starting it now. We also need to make sure that the businesses, the small businesses in this area especially, are supported by everyone. Because that's the backbone of the community. The small businesses, the barber shop, the record man, the food. Yeah.
The black people.
And that is what we need. And the patties. And yeah. So that is what we have to do together. There's something about us Canadians. We care for each other. We stand up for each other. It's always about coming together. And no matter who you are, skin color, where you come from, who you are, how much money you have, it doesn't matter. We believe in diversity. We believe we are stronger together. Like, unlike our friend down in the south, they are us and them. They are divisive. Here, we are inclusive. We believe when we come together, we are stronger.
Bullshit.
Yes, we are stronger. That is why we are proud Canadians.
You're right.
Yes, we will always be proud Canadians. And are we ever going to be 51st state of America? No way!
There were so many discrepancies found in that Pep speech delivered by the city's mayor yesterday at the Rastafest, August 16th, yesterday in Little Jamaica in the York region, you know. I'll tell you the first discrepancy that I found was the fact that our city mayor said that Canada does not engage in exclusion and being divisive, but that's totally untrue. It made me think about the school system here in Canada in terms of the anti Black racism that still perpetuates to this day. And I did some very extensive research, and I want to let you know that to compare the US and Canada is totally unethical, number one, and to profess that we're so united in Canada and that we live in a country that's inclusive of all people, no matter your skin color, is very untrue. I want to tell you that the very last segregated school in Canada closed in 1983. That was 6 years after the Canadian Human Rights Act decided that these practices of having segregated schools needed to change. And we all know that it's public knowledge that the United States of America also had segregated schools where there were schools that only white children were permitted to attend, where black children were not. The last segregated school to close was in Loch Lomond, Ontario, in the Thunder Bay area. They opened its segregated school doors in 1825, and the doors finally closed 158 years later in 1983. So, although it is not publicized and televised that Canada did have segregated schools, schools where black children were prohibited from attending, I want to tell you that in Fredericton, New Brunswick in 1820, the doors to the African schools were open. So black kids were not allowed to attend. They even issued grants. Canadian grants were provided to these schools, the African school, as they called it. However, uh, the schools were in poor condition. The education level was not as high as it was in white schools, where Black Canadian children were not allowed to go. And then we had the Loch Lomond that opened in 1825 in Thunder Bay. In New Brunswick, there was the King's Clear segregated school that opened their doors in 1831. The bell rang for Willow Grove segregated school in 1834. And then in 1866, the school bell rang for Black Canadian children in Woodstock, Ontario. So in 1870, Canadian law was passed in Halifax. The law was enacted to exclude students of African descent from common schools in the city of um, Halifax. In 1849, Chief Justice Malcolm Cameron, a member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, proposed a school bill allowing segregated schools. And then Chief Justice Beverly Robinson supported segregated schools in Canada. And his reasoning for segregated schools is that white children would suffer from bad examples set by Black children whose families escaped slavery from the US. And you would think that, hey, it's 2025. Why are you talking about this? I'm talking about it because the city mayor acts as if Canada is known to be inclusive and doesn't engage in marginalization and discrimination based on one's race and the color of their skin. But history shows that anti Black racism, even in the education system here in Canada, began many years ago in the year 1820. And it hasn't gone away. It hasn't gone away because in this year, 2025, there is an organization called Parents of Black Children in Toronto, the Durham Peel District School Board, who engages in anti Black racism in their education framework. They had a petition and a survey going, and it was proven beyond that shadow of a doubt that a 4-year-old Black student was arrested and handcuffed. Okay, there's so many things going on in our education system, in the elementary school system here in Canada. York University is one, and also high school as well. So for the city mayor to say that we're different and above the US in terms of segregation and exclusion, that is totally untrue. And that was the discrepancies found in the mayor's pep rally at Rastafest yesterday, you know? I mean, she spoke a pretty word, but the things she said were invalid. Canada is known to have systemic anti Black racism practices, especially. Well, I'm saying especially in one sector where it's proven is in our education system. And it didn't just start today, it started in 1820. And if you want to speak comparatively, in 1982 was the first Canada Day celebration here in this country. So while Canadians were celebrating happy birthday, Canada, segregated schools were still in operation right here in Ontario in Loch Lomond, Thunder Bay. And I want to tell you, if you want to speak comparatively, the last segregated school to close in the United States happened when? In the early 70s. and we only closed our last segregated school in Canada in 1983. I was 11 years old. So in the second year of celebrating Canada Day, segregated schools were still open. It's good to do your research and learn history outside of the history taught in Canadian classrooms, because there's a lot that's omitted from the school curriculum in terms of the real history in association with anti-black racism in Canada. And the grants are given to black entities and organizations that are willing to be compliant with the false narrative that anti Black racism is not existent today, August 17th in 2025, and has been ongoing since the early 1800s, since when the transatlantic slavery operation began. So, yeah, those were the discrepancies that I found listening to the city mayor speak her pep speech. Yeah. Bless up yourselves. Stay educated. Stay awoke. Stay blessed. Stay up. And whatever you do, stay true to yourself. You're done know.